Portfolio. In theory, this portfolio project is a culmination of your academic experience here at Tech. It should, when someone reads this, your portfolio project, they should be able to say, wow, this student is obviously an advanced student in the Human Services program, and this student obviously knows their stuff. And you'll show that many ways. You'll show it by your use of appropriate grammar, spelling, punctuation, citation of sources, but also because of the breadth and depth of your content. So the portfolio has 2 sections. Each one is a 4 to 6 page paper. Not very long, obviously. You're like, this is nothing. I could write this between breakfast and dinner.
And we've had students that have tried to do that.
Unfortunately, right. So the first section is based on Learning Module 6, who are my clients. And we ask that for this 4 to 6 page paper, you do this. You pick a population that you might want to work with. Some of you know what population you want to work with. Some of you have no idea what population you want to work with. Pick one. Pick a population. And we can talk through what that might be. Then you're addressing some concepts that you'll need to know when you work with whatever population it is that you work with. What are issues faced by this population? Excuse me, what challenges are faced by this population? So what are the problems that these folks have? What community services are available for this population? So this will require that you do research, right? Because you have to know what problems and then what services exist. Then the next part is like, what are the gaps between what exists and what needs there are? So you know what the problems are, you know what community services exist. Well, what policies or laws could be changed to better meet the needs of the population? This could be also policies. It could be policies within existing agencies, or development of programs within agencies, or changing laws to meet the needs of the population. Then you think about human service professionals. Well, what specific skills might you need to be able to work effectively with this population? And then thinking about those skills, what are your strengths and weaknesses in those areas? So your strengths and needs or weaknesses, that part of the paper should be at least a page. So in the 4 to 6 pages, at least 1 page is about you.
And we do want, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in here, but this is where we want you to increasingly become more self-aware. We don't want you to talk about this in abstract terms. By abstract, I mean...
I love people.
Yeah. And one problem I see in working with any population might be blank, blank, blank. I'm looking for you, at least from the folks in my class, to dig deeper. I want to know, what real strengths do you see you have? What are real areas of needed growth?
And honestly, by this point, you should be telling us stuff that we've already noticed about you. I mean, we know y'all by now. We've talked about you. And in this group process, we'll also learn more about you. And so I think that this, you know, what we read should pass our basic validity test. You know, does it really, our BS meter? You know, does this seem legitimate? And so we know a good self-reflection paper by this point, and you guys will be helping each other out, working as a group, and you can help each other. You know, I know you think you're great. You know, like you just see people, you don't see color. But I can tell you, when I've seen you interact with this person, you have a different body distance or something. So you can help each other out with that. That's going to be fun. The second portfolio section is another 4 to 6 page paper. And it's based on Learning Module 9. What is the nature of the human service helping relationship? So you're going to pick a counseling theory from the outline that's in the outlines. And you're going to describe the theory, which means you're going to be doing some research. You're going to be explaining maybe the history of the theory and how it's used. You're going to give a good overview of the theory, of course, citing your sources. Wikipedia, by the way, is not one that we use. Then you'll talk about how a human service professional could use the theory when you're working with, the population that you addressed in the first paper. So you're tying that theory back to that population that you've already learned a lot about. Then you will talk about your strength areas and areas that need growth in applying that theory. It all comes together. It's a beautiful thing. So the due dates, the due date is in your calendar. What questions do you have about this? Yes?
Do you have an expectation on citations?
Fabulous ones. What are you asking me? Like how many?
Yeah, I don't want to ask the minimum. I'm just trying to ask what you're looking for.
Well, I know you'll be citing the textbook because
It makes sense.
it makes sense to cite the textbook. And I expect that for when you're addressing populations, you'll probably do some research in specific populations. So you'll probably need to cite at least a couple sources about the population. Then when you're looking at services that exist, you'll have to get that information from somewhere. So you'll cite wherever you got that information. And then skills that might be needed, I would think that you probably get some of that information from a source or two. And then the self-reflection, you wouldn't be citing anything.
And let me just say, we have students every semester that come down to our office. We've got plenty of books. We've got textbooks that you can check out. We've got the old 101 textbook.
And whoever brought back the substance abuse treatment book, thank you. I was wondering.
Oh, it was Phyllis.
Oh, never mind. Okay, then some of you are holding onto my books, and I want them back. That's what I'm trying to say.
But you can come down and check out books. We've got books in the very back. We've got books in my office, books in Bonnie's office. Tracy's got some books. You can check those out and use those as sources, and I would encourage you to do that. Please do use your textbook. We picked this textbook because we felt like it really speaks to the material in the course, so it makes sense that you would use it. One other thing, Bonnie and I were joking a few minutes ago about we can tell when students wait till the last minute. I just really want to stress, do not wait till the last week to write this paper. Every semester we have students that do that, and what happens is they get into final exams, they get bogged down, they turn in a project that's not very good, okay? And that is 25% of your overall grade. So we are looking for you to turn in a nice portfolio.
Another thing that any questions about the portfolio? We'll talk about it ad nauseum throughout the semester. We don't need to. You don't have to have a complete and thorough understanding right now. But any initial questions? It's really going to be kind of a fun project because it's all the same stuff. I mean, you have one concept or one population, and then everything else is relating to you and that population and working with that population, and it's. Another thing that those of you who are in my class, my section have here is an introduction discussion. Thank you, Michelle, for pointing out that I had asked you to reply to post a discussion, but I did not actually include the discussion, so here it is. Yeah.
I was kind of freaking out. Oh, I don't like to say it.
So, do you want to start talking about group process stuff?
Sure.
Or is there anything else that we need to talk about
We
here?
need to talk about self-reflection journals. You want me to pull one up and talk about that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll pull it up.
When you go on, and again, when you go home tonight, go into Blackboard, go to the course that you were assigned to, go into course content, and here you can see, this is what Bonnie and I covered tonight, or are covering here and here. Unit 1, okay, yeah, you want to go down to Unit 1? Yeah, I think there's a self-reflection and journal in there. On your attachment 1, and we're going to be meeting separately with our groups shortly to talk about due dates. When you go in here, you're going to see several things. You're going to see your outline PowerPoints, and those are there to certainly help the facilitators, so that the facilitators have some ideas, some things that they can perhaps do their facilitation on. So again, we've loaded resources in there. Bonnie's been fantastic. She's loaded so many websites. So there's lots of, yes.
When you don't know what else to do.
So there's lots of forms there. You can see your facilitator rating forms, and what we've tried to do is put at least 2 facilitator rating forms per unit, with the assumption that for every unit we're going to have at least 2 students presenting. Some we might have 3, but you'll see whatever number, you know, that's where you would find them. And then, Bonnie, here's our self.
Let me just point out, these are all icons that mean something. So if it has the World Wide Web, it's a web link. If it has, this is the journal, I don't know if you can see, but it's like a spiral journal and has a J on it. It's not monogrammed for each one, but that's the journal.
Now, our assumption is that on your off weeks, on the weeks that you're not coming to class, you're going to work on your journals. Okay? You may also later in the semester be meeting with your group to help prepare your portfolio. Okay? But here's an example of a journal entry right here. You can see that we ask you to think about journal as an addition to what you learn, to be honest. It's to help you become more self-aware. And the first one we're going to look at is what motivated you to get into the helping profession. Okay, what brought you to the point that you're at today? And then we've got some specific bullet points here, and you'll find these kinds of bullet points are specific questions in each journal. These are open-ended questions, again, we want you to reflect on. Write about your main motives for wanting to become a helper. How do you, sorry, I'm in denial that I need glasses. How do you expect your needs to be satisfied through your work? What personal strengths do you have that you see will enable you to become an effective helper?
Can I interrupt for a second?
Please.
2 questions. First of all, whose theory did she just make reference to? Denial? It's a defense mechanism, which is part of old Freud. All right, number 1. Number 2, Bev, where did you get these journal entry things?
Much of the journal entries is a combination of what comes from the text, but I'd say probably the majority comes from the text. Now, some of it does come from outlines, and when Bonnie and I first developed this course, we were not using a textbook, so some of it does come from some of the earlier work that you and I did.
But it's rooted in curriculum stuff,
Absolutely.
And it's rooted in the textbook.
In the textbook.
So these aren't just questions that we just made up because we want to know. It's stuff that your authors and actually we did use a text before that was another
well, that's
text.
a good point. Yeah.
So it comes from another text. So these are questions that are rooted in something.
And at least, I apologize. I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
That's where I was going with that.
At least you'll find for at least 2 or 3 of these bullet points, they come from the textbook. So you're, absolutely right. We mentioned earlier, we're looking for a minimum word count. I'll go back and look. I know we wrote it somewhere. I want to say 250, and 250 is not very much. I'm hoping that you're going to do more self-reflection than that. We are looking for you to cite your sources somewhere in there. And the way you would do it in a self-reflection journal is you might say, I've noticed that part of my needs for becoming a helper were rooted in early childhood. Maybe you talk about some of your early childhood stuff, okay? There's lots in the textbook that talk about that. So you can say, but the authors say this about that. The authors say that I really need to be careful when I work with people because. Then you can put your quote, your in-text citation as source, and then of course at the end of your entry, you cite the text. Do you want to add anything to that? Or? Okay.
Lisa?
Question on our journal entries, will that be